What's good, everyone? Man, we in here tonight, man. Welcome to another installment of HBCU Fanatics. Of course, I have my brother, my co-host, Coach 67 Sports TV, Mr. Southern himself. What's going on, brother?
Man, what's good with you, bro? I'm blessed and highly favored this evening. How you doing?
I cannot complain about anything. Nothing at all.
Yes, sir.
Man,
Yes,
but
sir.
man, we just want to come in here and talk about some news of what's going on in the HBCU world and the little rivalry that's been going on for years, but it's been hot lately on uh the HBCU YouTube uh streets. But first of all, I heard Southern got a new running back, Trey Holly, uh transfer from LSU after Kendrick Grimes decided to transfer. Trey Holly looks to be the person that tried to fit that missing piece in the running back room for Southern. So, of course, I have Mr. Southern on here with me. So, he's a perfect person to explain what's going on with that. So, of course, I'm going to go over to you, Coach. What's going on with Trey Holly? And
Well, before
he's
we get to Trey,
a good fit. Go ahead.
yeah. Before we get to Trey Holly, essentially the three feature backs last year from Southern, Kobe Dillon, Kendrick Grimes, and C.J. Russell are no longer with the team. I think C.J. Russell, think he already was like a maybe like a grad student, or he was a senior, whatever. He, he's no longer there. Kobe Dillon, he was hurt a lot at Southern. He's been at Southern 4 years, but he was hurt a lot. And the NCAA gave him 2 extra years of eligibility. And he hit the transfer portal. And from what I saw, nobody picked him up. Then, of course, Kendrick Grimes, who, in my personal opinion, was the best of the three backs. I didn't have an issue with the three running backs all getting touches, but I felt like Kendrick Grimes should have got the lion's share of the touches, and those touches went to Kobe Dillon. Kobe Dillon was a speed back. Well, he was a quarterback in high school. He was more of a speed back. Really, all three of them. He was a speed back, and due to injuries, he kind of tried to transition to being a power back, and it really just didn't fit to me. I think Mark Frederick kind of tried to pigeonhole him into that particular role in terms of trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, and it didn't work. I felt like Kendrick Grimes should have got most of the touches, and he didn't. That might have been part of the reason why he left. He has one. The NCAA granted Kendrick Grimes another year eligibility, and he ended up transferring to Tennessee State. So Kendrick Grimes at Tennessee State, C.J. Russell, I don't think he has any more eligibility, and Kobe Dillon, from what I'm understanding, he didn't get picked up anywhere. Now, in terms of Trey Holly is the most decorated high school football player in Louisiana high school football history. He broke
Mm,
he broke Nick Bursett's record. Nick Bursett went to University Lab, which is the feeder school for LSU. And the
mm,
reason why I pointed that out is because Nick Bursett was starting running back at University Lab as an eighth grader. So he played varsity football as an eighth grader, and he was a man as an eighth grader. So he started all 5 years he was at University Lab, and he uh, had all the state records for rushing yards and touchdowns. So Trey Holly broke all of Nick Bursett's record in terms of rushing yards, and in addition to rushing yards, rushing touchdowns. So, of course, many people don't give him as much credit as Nick Bursett because, and I don't know how it is in North Carolina, I don't know how it is in Texas, but Louisiana high school classifications go from 1A to 5A, and then of course you got the select schools, A, B, C, whatever. And big boy football in Louisiana is considered to be 4A and 5A. So Trey Holly didn't play in 4A or 5A. So, you had people like Adrian Cook who was saying basically he played little boy football. He didn't play, you know, 4A like the Edna Cars or the Neville's or those type of schools. You know what I'm saying? So they didn't give him as much credit for breaking Nick Bursett's records. But even with that being said, He went to Farmersville High School, which is in North Louisiana, Union Parish. He ended up coming to LSU. And as a freshman, he played 4 games, and he did good in the 4 games he played in my opinion. But after his freshman year, he went back home to Union Parish, and there was an incident in which someone got shot or whatever the case may be. And what ended up transpiring is essentially it was a case of mistaken identity. Trey Holly has locks, and evidently the young man that committed this crime or whatever, he has locks also. So somebody notified Trey Holly, and he immediately he turned himself in like the next day, and then thereafter, once he was released on bond or whatever the case may be, he basically went on social media and he proclaimed his innocence. So he made it clear that he was innocent and so on and so forth. So when it came to his sophomore year was last year. So essentially, a year ago, almost to the day, they were saying that this is gonna be cleared up. This, and the thing that let me know that he is not guilty is when you go before a grand jury. The grand jury usually indicts you if they have like minimal evidence. The grand jury didn't even indict Trey Holly. So he had to sit out his entire sophomore season because LSU has a rule that you can't have any pending felony charges and still be eligible to play on the team. So Trey Holly had to sit out his entire sophomore season, and he ended up getting a red shirt. And then what ended up happening is he had a teammate for LSU whose dad was presiding over the case. So due to a conflict of interest, he had to recuse himself from the case. He was supposed to have a court date, I think, a month or 2 ago in Union Parish Courthouse. The air conditioning went out. So essentially what has happened since this entire case broke, since everything happened, he has been given continuance after continuance after continuance after continuance. I've known people to kind of be in a situation, especially when you know you're innocent, you didn't do anything. You want to go to court and you just want to have your court date and get, the charges dismissed or dropped or thrown out of court or whatever. But what happens in some instances, especially when it's a hot button issue, a hot topic, what the court does is they give you a continuance, and they just kind of give you continuance after continuance to let everything die down before they drop the charges, dismiss the charges. And he's proclaimed since day one that he's innocent. And I'm not going to lie, as a teacher, I've been in a scenario where I had one student in my class that have locks, another student have locks, and I, assume it's the wrong individual. And, I've had the kids tell me like, no, coach, he didn't do it, he did it. And of course, they believe in this whole no snitching, but certain individuals actually came forward like, nah, man, like, I don't want you to get the wrong individual, get the individual that actually did it. And, so they could get their punishment or whatever. And in this particular situation as a teacher, like, I'm like, look, son, I'm not even trying to get you in trouble because I know you down in your last strike and you being recommended for expulsion. But, bro, you can't do that and let me get the wrong person when you know you did it and he didn't do it, I mean, this is a serious thing you did, So I think it's a case of mistaken identity. And the fact that he hasn't been indicted by a grand jury lets me know everything that I need to know. And the issue is, we thought it was going to blow over after last July, when they thought everything was going to be thrown out of court. And he's just kind of been given court date after court date. So he didn't want to have to sit out another season at LSU. And as a result, he entered the transfer portal and he came over to Southern. And I want to let you know the significance of that. The significance of this is don't get me wrong, a lot of players have transferred from LSU to Southern, but he's the last running back, or he the first running back that transferred from LSU to Southern since Jermaine Sharp. Jermaine Sharp
In 90, I want to say 94, no, 93, he was the starting running back at LSU, and he rushed for like over 800 yards his freshman year. But the next year, you know, LSU was just loaded at running back. They had Kevin Falk, who ended up having a Hall of Fame type career at LSU. And in addition to that, he ended up playing a lot of years in the NFL for the New England Patriots. And then they also had Rondell Milley. And then, of course, they eventually ended up getting Cecil Collins. So Jermaine Sharp transferred. So Jermaine Sharp, freshman year, he rushed for over 800 yards. His sophomore year, he didn't even make the travel squad. He didn't get to play at all. So his junior year, he transferred to LSU. I mean, from LSU to Southern. And the reason why it was significant back then is because back in those days, if you transferred from one 1A program to another 1A program, you would have to sit out a year. But if you transferred to a 1AA program like Southern, you would be eligible to play immediately. So in many instances, players would transfer from LSU when they would be buried on the depth chart, or they would be in the doghouse for whatever reason, or maybe they just weren't good enough to play. They would transfer from LSU and they would transfer to Southern and literally walk right to the starting lineup and, become an NFL prospect. So so it got to the point where so many players were transferring from LSU to Southern, it started to aggravate Nick Saban. So once LSU won the national championship in 2003 and Southern won a Black national championship, Nick Saban put a blank ban in place that blocked all LSU players from transferring from LSU to Southern. Now, eventually, he ended up leaving and going to the Miami Dolphins. That's why it's significant because realistically, after that point, the last player to transfer from LSU to Southern was Junior Joseph in 2003. I had classes with Junior Joseph at Southern. He was a wide receiver that didn't quite pan out at LSU, and he didn't even quite pan out at Southern, to be honest. We thought he would come to Southern and do big things, and he just ended up being like an average wide receiver. His dad was real nice. I met him when I was taking my practice test to become a certified teacher. And his dad, was a real nice guy. I'm not gonna lie, he was a real cool guy, smiling all the time. Real fun-loving guy, but he just didn't pan out as a wide receiver. So the reason I'm saying it, eventually that ended up getting lifted. Southern in recent years have had players to transfer from LSU to Southern. But the significance of this is many people think Trey Holly transferring from LSU to Southern, it immediately makes Southern the front runners to win a SWAC championship and a Black National Championship. And because I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. On paper, this is the type of move that he would have transferred on paper to Jackson State as opposed to Southern, because Jackson State has been getting players of Trey Holly's caliber, since they like the hot team in HBCU football. Basically, a lot of players of Trey Holly's caliber, they've been transferring to Jackson State as opposed to other HBCUs. Don't get me wrong, with Mike Vick at Norfolk State and with Deshaun Jackson at Delaware State, you've been getting those type of players to transfer to those programs too. But the bulk of them and the lion's share of them have been coming to Jackson State. And on paper, just strictly on paper, if you had to pick a team to win both the SWAC championship and the Black National Championship and win the Heritage Bowl, on paper, it's clearly Jackson State is the favorite for many people. But Trey Holly kind of shifts the balance of power. And to me, I think it's a paradigm shift, the fact that he came to Southern. I don't think in a vacuum in itself, he makes Southern a front runner. I think Coach Graves and staff have done a great job. See, I think Jackson State has been getting a lot of splash transfers in terms of, the big high-profile players, whereas
Mm-hmm.
Coach Graves has done an excellent job kind of getting the under-the-radar type players that you be like, man, he's not a 3-4 star player on paper, but you could see he's going to fit in the Southern system, and he's going to fit well into their scheme and into their program.
Okay, okay. I did a little research on Trey Holly. He looks very promising, man. It's definitely gonna be interesting.
And to your point in terms of you saying he's gonna fit into the Kendrick Grimes role, well, in all actuality, that was one of the issues I had with Mark Frederick's play calling. Last year, Kendrick Grimes led Southern in rushing yards. I'm not rushing yards, but yards per carry. But he didn't even get the most touches. Kobe Dillon did. Uh, I don't know for certain if that kind of played into his decision to hit the portal and leave Southern, but if I was a betting person, I would say that probably it factored heavily into it. And in terms of Trey Holly, Southern, in terms of Southern's prototypical running back, Southern has, besides Trey Holly, they also got a running back that went to UTEP in Jacksonville State named Mike Franklin that transferred to Southern. And they also have a player that transferred from Louisiana Tech named Princeton Key. And the reason I point that out is because I don't know if you remember Gerard Sims from a few years back.
Yeah.
But Mike Franklin is more of the Gerard Sims big physical, strong power back. Whereas Trey Holly is closer to like a Kendrick Grimes, or even Princeton Key, he's closer to Kendrick Grimes, Barry Remo, C.J. Russell. All of those guys kind of fit if you look at Southern from probably from the late 80s. With the guy Kimbrough and Lindsey Scott Sr., Melvin Williams Jr., Jermaine Sharp, Steve Warford, Ryan Lewis. Like Southern has had this prototypical running back that's kind of closer to Trey Holly, like your smallish third down type back that is fast, speedy back, more of your prototypical NFL third down type back. So even Kendrick Grimes, if I had to make an NFL comparison to Kendrick Grimes, I would say Kendrick Grimes is like Evan Kamara without as much strength and power, if that makes sense. So Trey Holly kind of fits more into that prototype in terms of more of your smallish third down type back that's elusive and quick. But I'm not gonna lie, but from a talent standpoint, I think he's a I'm not gonna lie, I'm just gonna keep it a buck. He kind of, from a talent standpoint, he's kind of on another level if you compare him to just your average Southern University running back. I think he has the potential to do with what Jermaine Sharp never did at Southern. And part of the reason why Jermaine Sharp, because I bring him up all the time, but Melvin Williams Jr., even though we're not from the same side of Bayou Lafourche, we from the same general area. And many people thought when Jermaine Sharp transferred from LSU to Southern that he would just take over Melvin Williams Jr.'s spot in terms of Jermaine Williams, because the starting punter at the time was a running back from Donaldsonville High School named Lionel Nicholas. He was a starting punter, and he was a backup running back. And Melvin Williams Jr. came from Ascension Catholic High School. Both of those schools are located in Donaldsonville, Louisiana, and they literally play in the same high school stadium. Ascension Catholic was a 1A school and still is, and Donaldsonville High School is a 3A school. That's where Jarvis Green and Howard Green, of course, the two of them are first cousins. That's the high school they went to. So those two teams play in the same stadium. So when they arrived at Southern, Lionel Nicholas became the starting punter, but he felt like he should have been a feature back. But he was more, and I tell him this all the time, of course, I plan on having both Melvin Williams Jr. and Lionel Nicholas on, interviewing both of them at some point. Of course, I talked to Kendrick Grimes at Southern University, the Blue vs. Gold spring game. So I plan on having all three of those running backs on my show. But the reason I point that out is Trey Holly is closer to Melvin Williams and Kendrick Grimes in terms of prototype, and Mike Franklin is closer to Lionel Nicholas and Gerard Sims, the big, strong, 5 yards in a cloud of dust type of running back. And I told Lionel Nicholas that, I'm like, the fact that he's a starting punter, I think might have played into Pete Richardson's decision in terms of, you know, back then they didn't split carries the way they do now. Like, Melvin Williams Jr. got all the carries. You know what I'm saying? So Lionel Nicholas, he might get like 2 or 3 carries at the end of the game, but for all intents and purposes, he was a starting punter. And in his mind, he felt like he was a much better running back than Melvin Williams Jr. And I told him, I'm like, I don't think it's more so an issue of better. And of course, I think he has every right to believe he was the better back of the two. But I felt like in terms of prototypical Southern University running backs, Melvin Williams Jr. was more the prototype. And even if you look at the NFL at the time, like you had Emmitt Smith, Thurman Thomas, Barry Sanders, those were the prototypical like NFL type running backs, and Melvin Williams kind of fit into that role. Whereas Lionel Nicholas was more of a Jerome Bennett's. I don't want to say Earl Campbell, Bo Jackson, because I don't think he had that type of speed. But in terms of just being a strong physical back that you could run the ball with 25 times or 30 times a game, Lionel Nicholas, I think, could have been that. But I think Pete Richardson went with Melvin Williams Jr. because he had home run type ability in terms of being able to take a dive, a toss, or whatever, and take it 50, 60, 70 yards to the house. And I think that was what he was more looking for. And the irony of the situation is, after that year, Melvin Williams Jr. became academically ineligible, and he had to sit out a year. And Lionel Nicholas no longer was on the team. Neither was Jermaine Sharp, and that allowed Steve Warford to transfer from Cal. He transferred from Cal and literally walked right to the starting lineup at Southern and rushed for over 600 yards his sophomore year. And then his junior year, Melvin Williams Jr., that was the first time Pete Richardson really split carries, was Melvin Williams Jr.'s senior year and Steve Warford's junior year. And then, of course, Lionel Nicholas and Jermaine Sharp was no longer in the picture. But I just kind of pointed out all these things to kind of give one historical context for one, and second of all, just to kind of point out that Trey Holly, more than likely, from what I'm hearing behind the scenes, I guess Trey Holly and maybe Mike Franklin might split carries, or Trey Holly, Mike Franklin, and Princeton Key from Louisiana Tech. But either way, Trey Holly and Princeton Key are more the prototypical Southern University running backs, whereas Mike Franklin is more of the big power back to kind of complement the two speed backs, if that's how it works out, you know.
Okay, so are you looking for Trey Holly to have like a Martez Carter or Tyreek Cohen type impact?
Yeah, I think the reason why I say that is because first and foremost, he's kind of like the most high-profile player to transfer from LSU to Southern in a long time. Don't get me wrong, Devin Cotton started at defensive tackle the last couple of years at Southern. He transferred from LSU to Southern. And Southern also has another defensive tackle named DeMarion Johnson that's currently on their roster. And he, some people saying he could be as good as Southern's defensive line coach, DeMarcus Miller, in terms of interior lineman, in terms of impact. I don't think I've seen a Southern University like defensive tackle. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know you had Taj Brown, but to me, I think Taj Brown was more of a hybrid. He either could play 3 technique or 5 technique, and Southern had him playing 1 technique, and he made second team all SWAC as a 1 technique. Then they turned around and moved him out to a 5/Y9 technique, and he still made second team all SWAC. So that shows you how impactful he was. But the way they're talking, like he is going to be the most dominant Southern University defensive tackle in years, slash nose guard. And hopefully he has that type of impact, but only time could tell, because that's why I say, when I talk about Jackson State on paper, I've seen so many players transfer from PWI Power 5 schools to HBCUs or just SWAC in general. And these players supposed to be all world, and they just don't live up to the hype. You know what I'm saying? Like, I hate to say it, kind of like Junior Joseph, So just because a player is supposed to do something on paper, that doesn't mean he's gonna live up to, what he's supposed to be. But, in terms of Trey Holly, many people feel like his arrival at Southern, they felt like, Southern and Jackson State are kind of like the cream of the crop in the SWAC right now. However, some people believe that, this move is gonna kind of tip the scales in Southern's favor. And the reason why I'm kind of pointing out, a lot of LSU fans have been really supporting Trey Holly from a morale standpoint. I haven't seen Tiger Nation get behind a player transferring from LSU to Southern like this ever. So his whole situation is unfortunate. The fact that you hear no negative publicity about him, because I'm not gonna lie, I don't know how the news stations are in other areas, but the two local news stations in Baton Rouge are Channel 2, which is WBRZ, and Channel 9 WAFB, and they're synonymous for not being fair, in my opinion, in terms of, like media coverage, especially when it comes to, I think I'm gonna just keep it about black people in general, but especially like black athletes or even anything related to Southern. I talk about this all the time. I don't talk about this on a Southern Baller show. In the past, there have been incidents where LSU have had incidents, and it will pass through a news cycle. You never hear about it again. Whereas if there's an incident with Southern, man, you hear about it for days, weeks, months, and in some instances, years after the fact. That's why I didn't like the one-time Coach Prime brought Jackson State to A.W. Mumford Stadium, Peterson Field. That's why I was so agitated. But the fight after the game, because I'm not gonna lie, that was the best SWAC game I saw the entire season. Not just Southern game, not just Jackson State game. The best SWAC game I saw the whole season, and I felt like, to a certain degree, them fighting after the game, after Jackson State tried to plant the JSU flag at midfield at A.W. Mumford Stadium, Peterson Field. I think it kind of put a little bit of a damper on it. But I'm not gonna lie, the thing that I was happy about was the fact that the news stations didn't talk about it as much as I thought they would. But the fact that he's getting a lot of support from Tiger Nation, and the fact that the grand jury didn't even indict him, to me that lets me know that he's not guilty. And I think eventually he's gonna get his day in court. And I think that the charges are gonna be dropped. They might put him in some type of pre-trial intervention program. But either way the cut go, for people that came into my chat last night and basically saying that, hey, Southern has a person with felony charges on their active roster. I think the fact that the grand jury didn't indict him, that tells me everything I need to know in terms of, I think eventually the charges are going to be dismissed. So based on everything I see, do you think Southern immediately become the front runners to win the SWAC overall, not just the SWAC West? Or you think it's still Jackson State's conference until otherwise?
I ain't gonna lie. Since the loss of Kendrick Grimes, I definitely was going to say that Jackson State already had the edge on Southern, but with his addition, it makes it more interesting.
Now, to everybody in the chat, I want to point it out because, in fact, I'm going to have to click over to my YouTube. We not making our official picks till at the end of the show, so y'all stay tuned. And not only that, but we got something big we gonna break at the end of the show. So y'all got to stay locked in and stay tuned, you dig?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So it's definitely going. But you know what I want for y'all, man. I want y'all to have if y'all get a quarterback, y'all can beat anybody, I believe, in the SWAC.
Well, I think the
quarterback.
I think the quarterback situation has been, at least in my personal opinion, I think has been resolved. Now, for those individuals that tapped into my live stream last night, Jamari Jones, graduate transfer from East Mississippi Community College. He also was at Valley. He has entered the transfer portal. He's left Southern. Coach Graves said he had some family issues, but I'm gonna be truthful. Dylan Compton came from Buckeye High School. Dylan Compton is a true freshman. And in addition to that, Cam McCoy transferred from Jackson State. And I'm not going to lie, Jamar Jones, he played well in Southern University 2025 Blue versus Gold Spring game. But I think the issue is, of course, the job is Jalen Woods' job to lose because as far as I'm concerned, he done put in work. He done earned his stripes. He's been in Southern. He's the most veteran quarterback in terms of being at Southern on the active roster. He's been there the longest. So I think he's earned his stripes, for one. And second of all, in terms of, not counting Dylan Compton, because Dylan Compton is a true freshman, but before I'm hearing this, he been taking practice squad reps, and he kind of been lighting it up, and he been doing his thing from what I've been hearing. But Dylan Compton, and I pointed this out, 10 years ago, I taught almost 3-4 years in Avals Parish. And for those individuals that don't know, Avals Parish is Mooreville, like Simsport, Marksville, Bunkie. It's like those 3 towns in that area. And I'm not gonna lie, if you're not from Avals Parish, the only thing that's really there to do is gamble and play golf. And I don't do either one of those two. You know what I'm saying? So there's not much to do in that little small town. And the reason why I pointed out because athletes that I coached there. I coached basketball there for a couple years. One of those years I coached both boys and girls basketball, high school basketball simultaneously. And in some instances, I felt like players from that area got a bad rep. But I'm not gonna lie, coaching them up close and personal, sometimes athletes from that area have a stigma and a reputation for lacking focus and lacking discipline. And that's why players and athletes that's talented enough to make it out of Avals Parish, they end up stuck there. But the fact that not only did I hear a lot about him coming from Bunkie and coming out of Avals Parish, but the fact that he made it to Southern and he's tearing things up, and from what I understand, he's doing good. That fact alone lets me know that, one, he's immensely talented, and two, to a certain degree, he has a certain degree of focus, and he's locked in. But I think the issue when we talk about the veteran quarterbacks, I think Jalen Woods was more of your pure pocket passer, and Cam McCoy, who came from Jackson State, he's more of the athlete. From what I'm understanding, he's more athletic than Bashawn McCray and Darius Skelton. I guess he might be more of a Thomas Ricks type quarterback, whereas Jamar Jones is kind of in the middle. He wasn't as athletic as Cam McCoy, and he wasn't as polished a pocket passer as Jalen Woods. But I'm not gonna lie, just looking at the footage, for those individuals that won't see, you go over to my channel and look at some of the clips. Like he did well in a Blue versus Gold Spring game. So I guess maybe he felt like he was gonna be the odd man out. I don't know. Or maybe he legitimately had some family situations that Coach Graves alluded to in his statement in terms of, social media. Or, maybe somebody might be courting him behind the scenes. But either way, he's no longer at Southern. And, I wish him well. Hopefully everything works out for him. I don't know how much eligibility he has. He already was a graduate, player, graduate senior or whatever. So I don't know how much eligibility he has left, but hopefully everything works out for him. But I'm not gonna lie, he played real well in the Blue versus Gold Spring game.
Okay, all right. But to your point, man, I think this addition of Trey Holly is gonna make things interesting. Because like we discussed last year, man, the y'all offense was keeping y'all back from a lot of wins. Y'all made it to the SWAC championship, but I felt like, and of course we went over this. I felt like y'all could have had a lot of more wins in the wins column if the offense wouldn't have gotten stuck in the mud in a lot of drives. So this is Trey Holly is someone who can um, uh, improve that especially in the running game since Kendrick Grimes has left. So It, can't wait to see it, man.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna be truthful. I think this is the best quarterback room Southern has had in years, and I'm encouraged. And we know the defense has carried Southern's team for the last 2 years. But I think if Southern's defense could be what it has been the last 2 years, and Jalen Woods can play as well as he played in the Blue versus Gold spring game, that's the reason why the Southern University fan, I'm talking so much trash, and I've been so confident because of the simple fact that I'm not gonna lie, Southern, from an offensive standpoint, I think they're gonna be in the best position they've been in for years. And not only that, you add Trey Holly, you add Mike Franklin, you add Princeton Keehee, uh, Southern, and not only that, Southern's offensive line, the entire offensive line has come back. The only vacancy they have is at left tackle, so they're gonna need to fill that void. But in terms of Southern's offense, of course you got Dupree Fuller at tight end. He was a major impact offensively. You got Jalen Woods. You got 8 running backs on the roster as we speak. You got 3 quarterbacks and Dylan Compton. So you got 4 quarterbacks. So I'm not gonna lie, I think Southern, from a roster standpoint, overall, I think this is the best roster they've had in years. A lot of people talking about how, from a defensive standpoint, Southern has a lot of question marks. But I think in terms of foundational pieces, still have Kelby Givens. You still have Vince Page. You still have Herman Bristol III.
Mm,
I
my
mean, you
boy.
got
Yeah.
you got 4 rock solid players defensively that made all SWAC first team or second team. Yeah, 2 of them made first team, 2 of them made second team. One of them, was on offense at tight end. So you have 4 foundational players defensively, but not only that, I think the thing that's the icing on the cake for me. They've always been able to fill voids in terms of they've been able to replace Taj Brown. They've been able to replace uh, uh, Jason Dumas. They've been able to replace, just a plethora of defensive linemen the past few years. Uh, what his name is, the defensive end that Kelby Givens, who took the spot he took, uh, uh, so Jordan Lewis. So I mean,
Jordan Lewis. Yeah.
they replaced Jordan Lewis. They replaced Jason Dumas. They replaced Taj Brown. So now they have to replace Darius Harry and Davin Cotton and Willie Miles. So they got to replace those 3, but they replaced 3 before that, and they replaced defensive line before that. So for the last few years, Southern defensive line has kind of been one of the staples of their defense. So I think overall, I think Southern's defense, I think they're gonna do what they've been doing the last few years, and I think the offense is gonna take it to the next level. I think having a dynamic punt and kick returner and
Hmm.
solidifying the punter and kicker is kind of like the 2 need areas. I think special teams is gonna be the biggest question mark for me.
Okay. Okay. We're gonna get into it. We're gonna get into it. I see everyone, man. Already said hi to most of y'all in the chat, but just want to give a shout out to brother Brent Fox. Thank you for support, man. My LDC brothers in here. Big Joseph Townsend. He said salute to the family. That brother growing with soul. He said salute, good brothers. Um, Mr. Shelton, here you go. Brock, MF, and Purdy. Shelton, LDBC business or nothing reloaded. Yes, sir. J the Six says, yo, what's going on, man? Uh, and Autism Boy, man. Appreciate y'all just checking us out, man. Appreciate y'all. Um, but is it, let's go ahead and get into it, man. So as you were saying, man, there's been a lot of back and forth online between uh Southern Jaguar fans and Jackson State Tiger fans. Uh, especially when the addition of Trey Holly. I saw one Jackson State fan say it don't matter it's still gonna be Jackson State by 40. Um, so I know with the rivalry, and I know a lot of Jackson State fans said technically there were 2 games that were forfeited, which don't count. Which we gonna count it on this show. All right, I'm sorry, Tiger fans, we gonna count them. So technically, the series between Jackson State and Southern is tied 35-35, apiece. So whoever wins the matchup this year, which I'm gonna get the date, uh, coach probably gonna beat me to it. Uh, that's the tiebreaker. Of course, last year they played on December 7th. Jackson State beat Southern 41-13 in a SWAC championship game. Coach, you know you picked Southern. That's why we call you Mr. Southern. Tell me why you picked Southern to win against Jackson State. Not only beat Jackson State, but beat the SWAC champions.
Well, I had a couple of reasons. First and foremost, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not taking anything away from Jackson State. And just to kind of go back to with the point you was making, I ain't gonna lie, the last handful of live streams, Southern and Jackson State fans have been going at it in my chat. However, last night we got visitors from all around the SWAC, from PV, from FAMU. So it was it was visitors from all around the SWAC last night. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, the SWAC was representing full force across the SWAC, not just Jackson State, not just Southern. You had Prairie View, you had like I say, FAMU. I mean, they was coming from all over the place. You know what I'm saying? All Corn State. So yeah, so it was lit last night in a chat. And I'm not gonna lie, Adrian Crook the hitter, man. I know he probably gonna come check us out later on. Man, shout out to him, man.
Shout out.
He the head bust in the chat, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, the reason why I picked Southern is because I'm not gonna lie, on paper, Jackson State looks like the most complete team, not just in the SWAC, but in all HBCU football. Jackson State's wide receiving core, man, it's gonna be savage, you know what I'm saying? However, even though he is the preseason SWAC offensive player of the year, I'm not gonna lie, I am not so on Jacoby and Morgan is their quarterback. Some people comparing, because I always talk about quarterbacks in the SWAC from the past. Like Steve McNair, he's the best SWAC quarterback I've seen play live and in living color in person. Devontae Kincaid, Doug Williams, Randy Himes, Tavares Jackson, Bruce Eugene, Eric Randall, Quincy Reshaw. I can kind of go down the list. But the quarterback that stood out the most to me, I don't think he's the best Jackson State quarterback I've seen, but Jackson State had this quarterback named Robert Superman Kent. He bounced around the NFL and CFL. He's probably one of the better Jackson State quarterbacks I've seen over the years. Of course, Alcorn State had this quarterback named Don D.C. Carey. In fact, at one point, I don't even know if I think Bruce Eugene ended up being the SWAC offensive player of the year that year, and I think Don D.C. Carey ended up being second team. I don't even know if Quincy Reshaw made second team that year. I don't know if he did, but either way, the could go. Like those were hands down the 3 best quarterbacks in the SWAC, and one of them ended up getting left off the all SWAC team. That's how good the 3 quarterbacks were in the SWAC that year. But the point I'm trying to make is, for some Jackson State fans to be talking about, Jacoby and Morgan, I ain't saying it's a bunch of them, but just these 2 in particular, talking about, man, he the best Jackson State quarterback I've seen in a while with the rule. Like, he better than Robert Superman Ken. I'm like, hey, man, you need to pump the brakes. Because I'm going to keep it a buck. I kind of feel like Jackson State won last year, not because of him, but in spite of him. So that's one thing that as a Southern fan,
again, that offense was holding y'all back. Go ahead.
Yeah. I and that's the thing about it. I mean, don't get me wrong. Jay Good pointed this out, in our Southern Baller Show collective group chat. Basically, he was saying in terms of the structure of Southern's team compared to the structure of Jackson State team. That's why he felt like after the SWAC championship game, Southern needed to revamp their roster. Because if you look at how Jackson State was built offensively, you had a power running back with Irv Mulligan. You got ginormous offensive lineman, big, huge defensive line. And the thing about it is, shout out to Doc Holliday, HBCU Overdrive. When I was on his show, he was like, both him and C. Wells both pointed this out. Shout out to C. Wells too, Swag Talk. Of course, I made guest appearances on both of those shows, but both of them pointed out how Jackson State's defense is the type of defense you have to scheme. You just can't line up and play bullet football and try to punch them in the mouth. And essentially, what Jay Good was saying behind the scenes in our group chat was the fact that Southern needed to get back to what Southern was in the 90s. Big physical offensive linemen, moving defenses against their will, leaning on teams. That's the reason why, at one point, you had running backs like Lance Scott Sr. and Mel Williams Jr. and Steve Warford. You had so many Southern University running backs that had so much success. A huge part of their identity was Southern University's offensive line. Southern offensive line last year wasn't what those Southern offensive lines were in, 93, 95, 97, even when they did transition more of a spread team, I think they kind of started to lose some of their aggression and toughness. But even the team in 99 that had Mike Hayes and Devin Lewis, they still could give the ball to Dan Lewis and Ryan Lewis and still get yards between the tackle. Even when they actually won the SWAC championship in 2013, and they gave the ball to Lenore Tillery, they still could kind of lean on you and move you against your will. Southern, they were able to do that against Grambling and UAPB and those type of teams, but they definitely can do that against Jackson State. So that's one thing I'm kind of encouraged by, the fact that the offensive line has gelled. They have more continuity. And not only that, but in terms of what Jay Good was saying, kind of looking at the construction of their roster, to me, they seem kind of Coach Graves, even though I think in terms of like high profile transfer, 3-star, 4-star type players, Jackson State has that. Southern really don't have that. But in terms of physicality, Southern went out and got some ginormous offensive linemen. Southern went got, like I said, defensive tackle, Demarion Johnson that transferred from LSU. So to me, it seems like in the trenches, Southern is really gearing up to go to war with Jackson State. And not only Jackson State, but North Carolina Central, other teams that want to be physical in HBCU football and just line up and punch you in the mouth. And I think that's the thing about it. Southern's defense last year, I think their defense was just as good, if not better, than Jackson State's defense. I think the thing that tipped the scales in Jackson State's favor last year was the fact that Jackson State offense was better than Southern's offense. And I think that really was the big thing. And not only that, from a special team standpoint, Jay Good and I talked about this behind the scenes also in terms of Joshua Griffin, in terms of from a distance standpoint, I think he probably has the strongest leg I've seen at Southern since Carlos Leach. But one thing about Carlos Leach was way more consistent than Joshua Griffin. But they're gonna need to go and find him another like elite level kicker that's on that level, especially like a Carlos Leach type level. And not only that, they're gonna need to find a punter in a vein of a Matt Bushart, of a Ruben Beauplants. Because I'm not gonna lie, year before last, Ruben Beauplants, even though he didn't make either all SWAC team, he was able to kind of help Southern special teams and defense, especially the year before last, really carried Southern. Because I'm not gonna lie, I hate to say it, Harold Blood was trash, at quarterback.
Oh
And
man,
in
yeah.
many instances, Southern defense was the saving grace. But not only that, but as a punter, Ruben Beauplants, many instances, Southern would be pinned deep. Ruben Beauplants would come on the field, he would punt the ball, and he would flip field position. And Southern would be pinned deep in their own end. and then he would back the opposing offense up, and Southern would pin opposing offenses deep. And realistically, it kind of reminded me of the Ravens in '01. Of course, you being a Ravens fan, in many instances with the defense with Ray Lewis and that whole Ed Reed, that whole, cast of characters, basically in many instances, the Ravens defense would back teams up. And the way they would do this was through defense, special teams. And
I know,
essentially Southern was doing the same thing. But of course, the same issues that Ravens team had, Southern had in terms of ineffective quarterback play. And if they could have had a competent game manager quarterback, I think Southern would have been decent. You know what I'm saying? But the way Jalen Woods played, I think Southern's offense is going to be light years better than what it's been. So I think Southern's improvement in offense, and I think Southern's roster reconstruction in terms of being bigger, more physical. I don't know if they're going to be the still lineup and punch Jackson State in the mouth the way they did Grambling in the Bayou Classic, the way they did the UAPB before that, and the way they did other teams. And, having Trey Holly and Mike Franklin and Princeton KE, I think that's going to kind of help Southern go a long way. Like I said, I think at this point, I think that Southern's biggest question mark is going to be special teams. But that's the reason why I'm so encouraged. Because if offense has kind of held you back the last few years, and offense doesn't seem like it's going to be an issue this upcoming season, I think Southern's going to be cooking with Crisco, in my opinion. So that's why I'm so confident that Southern is going to be able to get over the hump this coming year.
Okay. All right. So before I begin, I just want to shout out to the people that's in the chat, man. Rod the second, man, he said a great quarterback and running back duo at Southern. Yes, it is. J Bar said salute family in chat. Salute. Thank you for always supporting. Big Reg, host of Big Boy Talk, said what up everybody? What's good, Big Reg? Jay Good said what's up? What's good, brother? Rod the second said if Woods play against Jackson State against Southern State loses, Jackson State loses, no question. So he's saying if
Jalen Woods played in the SWAC championship game.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a big contingent in Jaguar Nation that honestly and legitimately believe had Jalen Woods played in the SWAC championship game that Southern would have won the SWAC championship game. But a lot of Jackson State fans believe that he wasn't experienced enough to go against Jackson State's defense last year. That I'm not gonna lie, Jackson State did have a savage defense. But clearly, as the three quarterbacks, Jalen Woods was clearly the best of the three. And that's the thing about it. He didn't play against Jackson State in either. The first time they played, Zay T-Set started, and he got hurt, and Noah came in. And then he got hurt and got a concussion in Bayou Classic. So he didn't play in that rematch in the SWAC championship game. And the crazy thing about it was Southern was up by a touchdown in that SWAC championship game in the first half. And Jacoby Morgan got hurt. And Southern had the ball, and I'm not going to lie, I got to give him credit just for that small stretch. Because I'm not going to lie, for the vast majority of the season, Southern University offensive coordinator Mark Frederick, he was completely trash as an offensive coordinator. But at that point, he kind of kept Jackson State off balance. Mark Frederick won't line up and punch you in the mouth and just kind of ram the ball on your throat. Like, Southern wasn't built. They were built to do that against Grambling, against UAPB, and against a lot of other teams in the SWAC. They weren't built to do that against Jackson State last year. So the fact that he was constantly throwing the ball and he was kind of going 4 and 5 wides, and when Southern did run the ball, it was AT Set running the ball. It kind of kept Jackson State's defense off balance, right? And then he kind of reverted back to what he'd been doing the whole season, just trying to play bullet ball, line up, and punch Jackson State in the mouth. That wasn't going to work. And then Jacoby Morgan got hurt. Zod McDonald came in the game, and he gave Jackson State's offense a shot in the arm. Essentially, I'm not gonna lie, he was kind of like a Bashawn McCray, a Darius Skelton type quarterback, and he just pretty much was a running quarterback. And I'm not gonna lie, that gave Jackson State the shot in the arm that they needed. He made enough throws, enough timely throws that Southern really just couldn't focus on just him running. And I'm not gonna lie, Southern just got dominated in the second half, and Jackson State just ran away with the game, and that's why they just was able to just roll and just blow Southern out in the second half. But I think, like I said, a large contingency and Jaguar Nation believe had Jalen Wood started that game, it would have been a much different game.
Yeah, and Rod Second said, I've been telling Coach for 3 years that he should have been starting since Love was
I'm
the
not gonna
starter.
lie, he was the one beating the drum. I gotta give him credit. I'm there to myself. I'm not gonna lie, after the spring game, I'm like, hey, I think Noah, and I'm gonna keep it a buck. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. The last 2 seasons in the Blue versus Gold spring game, I was kind of more hopeful because Harold Blood didn't like the world on fire, but I was hopeful. I'm like, hey, if he looked like trash in the SWAC championship game against Jackson State also. But I'm like, hey, he showed some progression from that point to this point. Hey, I think he could, turn it in the right direction. What he did in the spring game is the exact same thing he did for the season, and he was trash. Then we moved forward to Noah. Noah was the same way. Last year in the Blue versus Gold spring game, he played better than he had played during the season. But I'm like, I think he showed some progression. I think he gonna keep moving in the right direction. And what he did in the spring game, he did the exact same thing during the season. I'm not gonna lie, he was the only one saying like, hey man, Jalen Wood's the guy, Jalen Wood's the guy, Jalen Wood's the guy. And I'm like, well, he really hadn't shown it. I'm not gonna lie, even last year at the Blue versus Gold spring game, I felt like if I had to rank them, I would say Noah played the best of the 3 quarterbacks. Zay got him going in terms of he got the offense going sooner. But if I had to rank him, I would say Noah, then Jalen Woods, then Zay T-Set. And then the season happened. Noah played like trash against McNeese State, and they ended up bringing in Zay. Then the next week against Savannah State, Noah played again. I mean, that's how bad Noah played. Savannah State was beating Southern. Then Zay came in the game, and they took off. Then against Jackson State, Zay got hurt, and Noah came back in. And it just ended up being a roller coaster ride. And I'm not going to lie, by the time Jalen Woods actually got to play against Nicholls State, I was so pissed because when I'm at my mom's house, literally, Nicholls State is 35 minutes south of where I'm currently at here in Belrose, whereas if you go the opposite way, Southern University is like 60 minutes in the opposite direction.
Mm-hmm.
So I was so heated the fact that they was getting their ass kicked by Nicholls State. I just left. Me, my mom, and my nephew. I told them like, hey, I can't take no more. Let's get the hell out of here. And then they had a guy. Earlier I talked about Melvin Williams Jr. Well, one of the running backs that I went to Burroughs Middle with, he ended up being the guy that replaced Melvin Williams at Ascension Catholic. But he came to Southern, but he didn't play ball. But anyway, one of his, cousins or kin people or whatever was behind me, and he was rooting on Nicholls State. And I'm like, man, I don't want to see no more of this shit. I left. So I'm not gonna lie, people were saying after, they were like, oh man, coach, after you left, like, Noah played good. I'm not Noah, let me say Noah. They were like, Jalen Woods played good. By that point, it was kind of like too little, too late. But the thing about it is, Coach Graves didn't go to Jalen Woods right then and there. He kept going back and forth between Zay and Noah. And then I'm not gonna lie, Zay was playing so trash against Bethune. Bethune was winning that game.
Mm-hmm.
Offense just couldn't move the ball. Jalen Woods came in, and I'm not gonna lie, you could see the moment he came in the game, the offense just went up to a whole nother level. So for people to make it seem like, hey, Jalen Woods just was a game manager, I think he's more of a pocket passer from the standpoint of, just reading the defense. Noah struggled reading defense. Zay struggled at times. But more than anything, I don't think Zay struggled to read the defense. I think he struggled to make the right decisions. Whereas Jalen Woods, he went the minute he came in the game, and from that point in Bethune game in the game against UAPB, in the game against Grambling. In those 3 games, he went through his progression quickly. He made the right reads. He made the right throws. I'm not gonna lie, it was so bad that you had Chandler Whitfield. He was so used to not being thrown a catchable pass that the couple passes that Noah hit him like right in the hands, he ended up dropping them because all throughout the season you had so much inconsistency at quarterback play. Now you finally got a quarterback that could, put the ball on the right on the money in the right spot. That Southern receiver just wasn't used to it, and I'm not gonna lie, like the first, like they dropped some timely passes in that game. So had Coach Graves pull the trigger earlier and went, because I'm not gonna lie, there was a long stretch where Southern defense just was holding up, but they still was losing. But once Jalen Woods came in the game and they started moving the ball, then they got to the point where Bethune was like, all right, hey, we got to move the ball now too. So that's what ended up sending the game into 5 overtimes, So, but I think had he pulled the trigger earlier and Southern defense would have kept up, it's good play, then I think, that game would have went in 5 overtimes. So the fact that he waited till what? Like the end of the 3rd quarter, started the 4th quarter before he actually finally pulled the trigger and sacked Zay and put Jalen Woods in the game.
Okay. And salute to Supreme Beast Boxing.
Man, salute to my brother Cadillac Red.
Cadillac Red. He said salute to the brothers, man. Another Louisiana brother in the building. Yeah, Rod too. Agree with you. He's an actual quarterback from the neck up. He's a pro. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, he goes through his progression quickly. He makes quick reads. I think that's the thing that kind of separated him from the 2 of them. I'm not gonna lie. I think of the 3 quarterbacks, I think Zay was the most athletic. Zay had way more upside potential than Noah. Noah, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna shoot Cody. He was the worst of the 3. But I think the thing that kind of got Zay, the reason why some Grambling fans, not a bunch. See, like you said, Grambling fans, they want Devontae Kincaid, they want Bruce Eugene, they want I think at this point they'll probably take Kendrick Nord. You know what I'm saying? Definitely take Randy Himes.
Randy Himes, yeah.
Yeah, well, and you got to realize Randy Himes is more of an athlete. So Randy Himes, I'm not gonna lie, I can't say
I know because my Baltimore Ravens drafted him as a wide receiver.
Yeah. And that's the thing about it. He was a quarterback. They moved him to wide receiver. Then they moved him back to quarterback because they didn't have a quarterback. So Randy Himes was, he could make timely throws, but he was a heck of an athlete. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But I'm not gonna lie, of those Grambling quarterbacks, of course, though he was clearly of that group, he was clearly the best pure pocket passer of that entire group. Of course, I think Devontae Kincaid was the best dual threat. I think it's just best pure athlete. I think Randy Himes is 1, and I think Kendrick Nord is probably like a little bit below him. And I think Bruce Eugene he kind of closer to the Doug Williams, like pocket passer end of it. But I think they want that type of quarterback in terms of like, hey, somebody gonna set the world on fire. Whereas they feel like ZT Set is more of a quarterback comparable to quarterbacks they already had. And that's the thing I think they kind of sleep on it. I think Zay has a lot of upside potential. Just the inconsistency is the issue that got him,
Right. And to Rod's second point, and I'm gonna go to why I think Jackson State is gonna win the SWAC again, or beat Southern when y'all play. But he said Zay was a good athlete, but not a quarterback. Yeah, and to like what Coach was saying, like they need to treat him like Randy Himes, like an athlete.
No. See, this the problem with Zay. Zay is not as good an athlete as like Bashawn McCray, Ladarius Skelton, and he's not as polished, is not as pure of a pocket passer as a Jalen Woods, as a Austin Howard, as a that type of player. So he kind of in no man's land. And that's the thing about it. When I say he's a good athlete, he's a good athlete compared to Jalen Woods and Noah and Harold Blood. But if you had to,
so he was an elite athlete. What you and Rod the second saying, he wasn't. He's not because I only seen glimpses of him.
Yeah,
I seen him run first downs and everything, but he's not an elite athlete like a Randy Himes or uh, or Ladarius Skelton. Okay.
Yeah, and see that's the thing about it. Bashawn McCray and Darius Skelton, even them, I think if I, from an athletic standpoint, if I had to give them a grade, I would both give them B pluses. Now Thomas Ricks, I'll probably give him like an A minus, but he was a better passer than Bashawn McCray, and Ladarius Skelton and Bashawn McCray were kind of equal, but I think Ladarius Skelton made more timely throws than Bashawn McCray. Bashawn McCray couldn't throw the damn ball at all the time.
No. He basically was an athlete trying to
He was an athlete. He was a
pose as a quarterback.
he literally was a glorified running back playing quarterback. Ladarius Skelton was to a certain degree, but Ladarius Skelton could make plays with his arm. And that's the thing about it. He could hit you with something real short or something real long. He really didn't have no intermediate game don't get me wrong, he made intermediate throws here and there. I think he completed a higher percentage of his passes than Bashawn McCray. But I think that's the thing about it.
Good said Skelton could make plays.
Yeah. Zay wasn't the type of athlete in the Thomas Ricks, and we just going by Southern quarterbacks. Thomas Ricks, Bashawn McCray, Ladarius Skelton. If we going by Grambling quarterbacks, Randy Himes, Devontae Kincaid. He not, and at the same token, he not an elite level athlete, but he not a pure pocket passer, like a Quincy Richard, like a Austin Howard. So he was kind of like in that great area. He was a good athlete, but he wasn't a great athlete, if that made sense. So from an athletic standpoint, he was more of a B minus. You know what I'm saying? But as a passer, he was more of a C minus. You know what I'm saying? So that's why. So that's why at times, and I mean that's the thing about it. He showed like real promise and potential. If you look at him against Savannah State, if you look at him against Alabama A&M, in them games he made plays. Now, I know some people that might be Southern University, like that might have been a Zay detractor. It was like, yeah, he leaned heavily on Dupree Fuller and Chandler Whitfield and Darren Mars in them games. But even with that being said, he made plays in those games. Whereas if you look at the game against Bethune, you're like, damn, is this the same guy? Oh, you look at the game against Jackson State, is it the same guy? So he showed flashes and glimpses of, man, this guy has potential to be like a SWAC championship winning quarterback. And in other instances, you're like, man, this ain't the same guy. This can't be the same guy. You know what I'm saying? So that was with him. It was either feast or famine. Either he was just terrible, or he was good, and it was like no in between. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. I seen glimpses of Zay, especially during the SWAC championship game. I thought he did okay. For what?
No,
I'm
not gonna lie. I'm gonna be honest with you. In that SWAC championship game, I think he gave Southern a better chance to win than Noah. So when I felt like they pulled Zay to put Noah in, I felt like Coach Graves was waving a white flag to me. In my personal opinion, I felt like, man, look, bro, if Zay can't get it done, it ain't to be gotten. But for you to pull him and put Noah in, I think that was a signal for one that you giving up winning, and not only that, but that it's time for both of them to hit the transfer portal. And not too long after that, both of them hit the portal.
They did. But Coach, we can cook on that all day. But let me give you my reason why I believe
yes, sir.
Jackson State is going to beat Southern. The reason why, Negro, I didn't know they picked up Shamar Savage. When you said they wide receiver room was no joke, I thought I knew they were good, but damn, Shamar Savage was Fairview A&M's best wide receiver. Not only that, he was one of the better wide receivers in the SWAC, in my opinion. And he on the roster?
Yeah. And that's the thing about it. Bro, he didn't make preseason on SWAC. So the fact that they have other Jackson State wide receivers that on a roster that they believe is better than him, that tells you how loaded they are at wide receiver. My issue with them is, who in the hell gonna throw the ball?
Yeah. Jacoby and Morgan is don't even get me started. But shout out to Jay Good. And this is what if they just run the ball, because Jay Good got me up on this boy. He's a junior now, but Jay Good had me looking at him since he was at Louisville in Texas. And that offensive line in high school he was on was one of the best offensive line in Texas, and he was one of the reasons. He got a couple of years in Jackson State, and he made the preseason All SWAC team. That's Quavian Davis, number 79, 6'8", 330 monster. The fabulous freshman Travis Terrell Jr.
Now I ain't gonna lie, as a punt kick returner,
Coach, hold on, Jay
he a
Good.
beast.
He said, I'm gonna get to Travis Terrell Jr. Jay Good said Savage was a non-factor against Southern. Okay, last year. Okay. And the only reason I believe, because he hasn't had consistent quarterback play, and he might end up in the same position, but he a beast. But he said I'm more concerned with Rambert. Hold on. I know they ain't pick up that boy from Mississippi Valley. Hold on. Tell me that's not the person you talking about, Jay Good. Show the hell is Nate Rambert, and I scroll right. Man, they got two of the most underrated wide receivers in the SWAC. That's on the damn roster. Yeah, if they find themselves a rhythm at quarterback, y'all in trouble. The FAMU killer for real. Nate Rambert. Yeah. Those who don't know what Jay Good talking about, he was one of the reasons why Mississippi Valley beat the FAMU. But yeah, man, they got a lot of good pieces, and then TC Taylor did a good job looking in the portal. Now, I will say this: I stand on what I said. If Jalen Woods, like y'all saying, he's a solid quarterback, very good, very competent at quarterback. Y'all gonna put up a fight. No, hell, y'all might even, depending on if Jackson State sleep on y'all might even beat them. But because, like Jay Good said, y'all defensive backs is straight. But man, Nate Rambert and Shamar Savage, shit, man.
Savage didn't make preseason on SWAC. You know that, right?
Yeah, I know. Cause
I mean, they got
who's throwing on the ball?
I can't remember the other receiver, but I don't know. I can't remember who it was, but I know they got.
Exactly, that's my point.
Yeah. So I mean, they loaded a wide receiver, but like I said, who gonna throw him the ball? One, and then two, it ain't gonna matter if Kelby Gibbons on top of him in the backfield and he on his back. You know what I'm saying?
If Jacoby Morgan can be what we had this conversation between, what's a game. If he can be a game manager, he can throw little dump passes or whatever, and just feed it to Travis Terrell and Desmond Moultrie and Ahmad Miller. They're gonna be all right. They're gonna be all right. I hope this is gonna be interesting. I hope y'all prove me wrong. I hope Southern proves me wrong. I got Jackson State because I'm looking at this roster. Damn. As far as just having them two underrated wide receivers on the roster, Um, damn, I even forgot they picked up Nate Rambert. I heard about it in passing. Jay Good just reminded me. Damn, I yeah, I got that. That's one. Yeah, Jackson rosters to the eye now on paper is loaded, but we gonna see. We gonna see. But I picked them. Long story short, I got Jackson State beating y'all.
Long story short, I don't think Jacoby Moore gonna be to get the damn ball off. Kelby Givens gonna be in the backfield on his ass.
Okay.
And then on top of that, Southern ain't gonna have the same issue that I had the last few years with a inept offense, even with an incompetent offensive coordinator. He got a lot of toys to play with. You got Jalen Woods, who's slinging the ball all around the field for the 2025 Blue versus Gold Spring game. You got Trey Holly, you got Mike Franklin, you got Princeton Keehee. You got an offensive line that's gelled together with chemistry. Southern gonna win you, Dick.
We gonna see. We definitely gonna see, man. But it's gonna be exciting, man. Football back, baby. Football is back. But whoever win this game, like I was saying earlier, for those folk who just coming in, please hit the like button, share, and subscribe. Marquell Outlaw said Jeremiah Williams. Yep, Jeremiah Williams. But man, but then again, we already know.
Oh,
I'm
I
picking.
forgot.
I want to say this. I'm picking the Jackson State, but we know how the SWAC can be.
Yeah.
SWAC can
I
be
feel what
two
you're saying,
faces as hell.
but I forgot about old boy Jonas Fertillion. That's who it is. You heard, bro?
Okay.
And not only that, but I forgot they got the tight end that made first team all SWAC. What his name is Landy. Something with an M. I think Marvin Landy. So yeah, so offensively they loaded, but guess what? Like I said, they gotta block Kelvin Givens first.
Yeah, Ashton Taylor, that beast at linebacker, yeah, from Tennessee Tech. Yeah. Yeah, they roster loaded, man. I ain't gonna hold you, Outlaw. From the Reed Pulliam, yeah, from on paper, y'all loaded. I give y'all that. But um
Yeah,
at the end of the day, you gotta suit up and play. We gonna see.
they still got a Horatio Johnson locking up one of them wide receivers. And then Herman Bristol III coming over the top and smacking somebody. Kelby Givens gonna be on Jacoby Morgan ass. And Vince Page gonna be making plays all over the field.
Oh,
So
it just
yeah.
started. Questionova said, Southern doesn't stand a chance. Easy work.
Man, like hey, tell him first of all they gotta block Kelby Givens. Then you got Vince Page making plays from sideline to sideline. Then you got Horatio Johnson locking one of the wide receivers up. Now, I ain't gonna lie, he could be a little bit handsy, but I mean he's a physical DB, so that's kind of be expected. And then Herman Bristol III gonna knock somebody goddamn helmet off. I mean, after what he did, because I ain't gonna lie, in the Bayou Classic, I'm like, man, why they call unnecessary roughness against the defensive receiver? Then I saw the instant replay. I'm like, dang, you tried to murder that boy on the field, you did. So with them four foundational pieces, Southern gonna be straight defensively. Then you got Demaria Johnson coming from LSU. So Southern gonna be straight. They're gonna fill them, they're gonna plug them holes on the defensive line. Then Southern gonna be straight. And then the thing about it is, guess what? Southern offense is gonna be light years better than what it was last year. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, Marco Outlaw, bro, there's no way you can defend Fortulinian and Nate and Savage with Morgan and Travis in the backfield. What coverage y'all playing?
I mean, hey, you gotta ask Southern, you gotta ask Terrence Graves that question. But guess what? They gotta be the running ball first. I mean, we know they got a big physical offensive line. But if you're just trying to rely on just throwing the ball, and you're gonna let Kelby Givens get off like that, oh man, that's gonna be a problem. I mean, this boy was disruptive he was disruptive
I ain't gonna lie,
every game he played in.
I wouldn't trust Jacoby and Morgan in in clutch moments, but all he got to do is be just throw decent passes, and then let them hogs on the offensive line like Quavy and Davis and the other boys, man, just lean on y'all, man, and just keep on feeding it to Travis Terrell and Moultrie and Miller.
Yeah, well, Southern offense gonna be to move the ball. So the last 2 years, I don't know if you noticed, when Southern defense would wear down, when they garbage tail offense would just leave them on the field. But you ain't just gonna be the, just wear Southern defense down if the offense is actually moving the ball. So
Marquell, I was like, man, go look at our running back room.
hell, go look at Southern running back room. I'll take Trey Holly over any Jackson State running backs right now. And we talking about physical 5 yards in the cloud of dust. I mean, Mike Franklin, he coming from UTEP/Jacksonville State. So, man, Southern running back room loaded. Then you got Princeton K, he from Louisiana Tech. And Southern running back room is loaded. Southern got 8 running backs. I'm like, bro, maybe Terrence Graves thought it was 1983 again, and maybe he thought he was going to run a wishbone. I'm like, what the hell are they going to do with all these running backs? Somebody gonna eventually hit the portal, bro. I'm telling you that now. Because ain't no way Southern going to be to keep.
Jay Good say, is there any faith in Morgan like that? I see mixed reviews from fan base online.
No, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, he right. I mean, me and him been talking about this behind the scenes. I mean, some of Jackson State fan base, just like when we had Terrence Levy as the backup and Troy Williams as the starter. Man, a lot of Southern fan base wanted Terrence Levy because they felt like Troy Williams was trash. Man, a lot of people and a lot of even Jackson State owned fans not comfortable with Jacoby and Morgan like that. I mean, some of these Jackson State fans, like I said earlier, man, they're talking like he robbed a simple Superman Ken or somebody. Dude, he is not Robert Ken. He ain't that guy. I mean, I know he preseason SWAC Offensive Player of the Year and this, that, and the third, and some people think he's gonna be All-American. Hell, he must gonna be a Bashawn McCray or Darius Skelton type All-American in terms of being a running quarterback, because he don't move me as a pass. I can tell you that now.
And Quesanova said, hope is not a strategy, young man. Look at your O-line.
Like I said, I mean, hey, they develop chemistry, they develop continuity. I mean, they only got one offensive line position to really field. I mean, you got 4 starters. I mean, what more you want?
That's one player. And Marquell Outlaw said that's one player. What if he get hurt? God forbid, but good go look.
Well, I mean, he talking about Trey. I didn't just mention just Trey Holly. I said Mike Franklin. I said Princeton K. I mean, Southern got a plethora of transfers that they got off the portal. So Southern loaded. And I mean, I don't have, like I said, defensively. You got Kelby Givens. I mean, just to think, at one point we was like, damn, how Southern, going to replace Jordan Lewis. Hell, Kelby Givens better than Jordan Lewis. You know what I'm saying? I mean, so for those people that saying, how they going to replace Darius Harry and Davin Cotton and Willie Miles. Before that, they were saying how they going to replace Taj Brown and Jason Dumas. So they keep replacing these defensive players. So at the end of the day, hey, especially on the defensive side of the ball, Southern just keep reloading. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Your Jaguar brethren said All-American at what?
Well, hey, again, he preseason SWAC Offensive Player of the Year. You know what I'm saying? Some people think he has the potential to be an All-American.
Casanova said stop hoping. They were subpar last year. Your O-line.
I mean, I guess he didn't watch the game against Grambling and UAPB and some of these other teams, but Southern just were leaning on teams.
That's what I'm saying. They couldn't just lean on Jackson State. I mean, I acknowledge that. I mean, I don't know if you've been watching the whole live stream or what, but I don't say that. But guess what? You know, according to our trash offensive coordinator Mark Frederick, he said he likes this running back room a lot better than the running back room from last year. So I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, hey, we'll see how things playing out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we definitely gonna see. Casanova said, "Did you add 20 points worth of talent?"
No, actually, Jackson State fans are synonymous. I don't care who Jackson State played. By 40. We beat FAMU by 40. Southern by 40. Alcorn State by 40. Alabama State by 40. So I think we added 40 points worth of talent.
Marco Outlaw said we beat them too. Rod II said they look so par with quarterbacks that play like Morgan.
And then Zion McDonald left too. I mean, Zion McDonald and Cam McCoy. So who y'all back up now?
Southern need to be worried about Central, and we worried about Hampton. All flaws gonna be shown week 1. That's true.
Actually, for Southern, it ain't even week 1. Hell, it ain't even week 0. I guess it's more like week -1 or super week 0 or some bull crap, because somebody put this in the chat. They was like, y'all playing against North Carolina Central week 0. They was like, that's even before week 0. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know what to call it.
Casanova said, no, that was the average margin of victory against Southern. And Jacob said, did they beat Grambling by 40?
No, they didn't. That's the thing about it. They keep hollering, but hey, all these JSU fans, hey, y'all need to beat FAMU first. Well, JSU fans, y'all need to beat Grambling first. Yeah, they beat Grambling first, because we beat Grambling the last couple years in the Classic for sure. You know what I'm saying?
Man, it's gonna be interesting, man. It's definitely gonna be interesting, man. Stop writing Graham nuts. Nah, man, but I'm not even a Southern or Jackson State fan, but
You just a fan of HBCU football, period,
yeah,
huh?
yeah, but Graham did beat y'all though. Nothing about no.
Kids, if that's the kids quiz over, then guess what? Y'all quit worried about FAMU.
Rubber as it the meat. That's
Yes,
true.
sir.
That's true.
Let's see y'all come to AW month for this year on Southern. Let's see that. You dig what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
So we don't care if you're a fan of Southern or Jackson State, FAMU, Purview, whoever. You know what I'm saying? You know,
Could
we
be
want y'all to come over.
CIAA. Don't matter.
Yeah, we don't care if you're a MEAC fan, whatever. We want you to come through and come rock with us. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, and I appreciate you, Tay Tay, showing some love. King salute. I really appreciate it.
Man, salute to your queen.
And Casanova, appreciate you, brother. Marquell Law, Outlaw, Rod II, all y'all, man. Autism Boy, Jay Good. Who did I miss? Jay the Six. Mr. Shelton. Jay Barr. I appreciate all y'all, man. Man, please make sure y'all hit my like button, share, subscribe, man. I'm trying to get my channel up and popping, man. But I appreciate y'all, all the support. Go ahead, Coach.
And before we sign off, y'all need to come through tomorrow morning, 10:30 a.m. Black Man's Perspective.
Yes, sir.
We're going to talk about how can we restore the Black nuclear family. And in addition to that, on Sunday, 3:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, the Southern Baller Show, you dig? We're going to talk about those Dallas Cowgirls and the situation with Michael Parsons.
Fumbling the bag with Michael Parsons.
And we just going to talk some good NFL talk. So that's one thing y'all need to stay tuned for from this point forward. You know, when we do it, especially tomorrow morning, 10:30, Black Man's Perspective. Sunday, 3:30, Southern Baller Show. Man, y'all rock out with us, you dig?
Yeah, I appreciate you, Coach. You beat me to the punch, man. I really appreciate you.
But and salute and shout out to the mighty LDBC, you dig?
Always shout out to the mighty LDBC, man. Good brothers and sisters, always supporting each other. But
Major shout out to the SWAC and all our HBCU fanatics like us. You know what I'm saying? But of course, I got to stand on business. Go Jags, you dig?
of course. But man, this was a fun and another exciting episode of the HBCU Fanatics. Question over. You have a great weekend too, brother. But y'all have a blessed weekend. Y'all be safe out here, man.
Tomorrow morning, 10:30, you dig?
Yes, sir. Be blessed.